November starts off quite tense. We have Venus, Mercury, and the Sun in Scorpio first opposing Uranus and Taurus, and then squaring Saturn in Aquarius between November 5th and 11th. Uranus calls for revolution and can give us exciting new ideas and pursuits, while Saturn reminds us about our duties and responsibilities to ourselves and others and asks us to be patient. Let's take a closer look and break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave me a like or a comment. I really appreciate that, and it helps my channel grow and encourages me to bring you more videos. Before we dive in, I wanted to let you know that my Scorpio season deal is currently active, meaning every Scorpio gets 20% off natal and solar return readings. There are links down below. And I have started working with planetary magic, which means carefully choosing benevolent astrological times and creating candles and oils with planetary magic properties. This is my Venus Cazimi candle. There's also oil. Venus is great for romantic, creative pursuits. It can help you manifest someone. Not this one, but I have a Venus in Libra candle that is called Venus in Libra. This was created with the moon waning, and when the moon is waning, it's better for spiritual matters, and it's great for having a good time, but not necessarily for manifesting someone new. And then I also have Mercury in Virgo candle and oil that are great for focus, concentration, speech, and writing. Check out my website and don't hesitate to ask me any questions if you have them. So this is the beginning of the month, right? Between November 5th and 11th, this energy feels the strongest. And we're getting a T-square. T-square is a tense aspect when you have 3 out of 4 signs of the same modality represented. So here we're having, it's a fixed square. We have planets in a fixed sign of Scorpio, water, depth, emotions, opposing Uranus in a fixed earth, stubborn, sense of what's right, desire for revolution, of the physical, tangible, right? Like controlling your place of living, controlling your body, controlling your decisions, versus Saturn in Aquarius, which is all about community and larger whole and thinking about others and thinking about duties and responsibilities. So there's a lot of tension in the air. Like I said, lasts for about the first 12 days of the month. And of course we have the eclipse on the 8th, which there's a video on that coming up as well. And it's stressful. I'm filming this, it's already November. I have been feeling overwhelmed, and there's been a lot of things, and so great. I like that. I like being busy with work, but it's definitely felt like a lot. So this is a bit of the energy here. You feel like you're tired, maybe you feel like you're ready to break away from it, but Saturn is saying no. And just do your best to take it easy, do your best to take good care of yourself, and try not to push extra hard, because Saturn is in the mix, and Saturn is always about proceeding carefully and not pushing harder. So because it's such, there's definitely a possibility for relationship tensions, especially between November 5th and 7th, because Venus is going to be making this aspect first. We have Venus, the planet of love, romance, and beauty, opposing Uranus, which is revolution, shakeups, tensions, pressure tests, and relationships, and then squaring Saturn, which makes you be more thorough, serious, think about long term, possibly make some type of sacrifices. Mercury follows. Mercury deals with your mind, your communication. So there might be certain conversations that come up that feel frustrated or blocked somehow, things that you want to say, things that you're ready to say, or maybe you're feeling unsure and you need to draw back and kind of go back to the square one. And then we have the sun making the same aspect. So the sun is also going to oppose Uranus and square Saturn. And it's all back to back, right? Like the sun, Venus, and Mercury are in Scorpio, like really close right now. So they're all triggering different parts of our personality, but internally creating that same tension between, you know, we just had a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. There may be deep feelings. There may be things that have gotten revealed to you, things you have recognized, things you have to face, harsh, deep, emotional things. And you may feel ready to transform them. You might be doing a lot of emotional work, a lot of kind of internal work. And then Uranus throws some kind of surprise into the mix, right? Like Uranus is very much the planet of lightning striking. And then you have to work with Saturn. So we're going to take a look at all 12 signs, but some other things that you can potentially expect is, so like I mentioned, relationship tests, right? You want independence, your partner wants independence, there's sudden opportunity that arises in your life, that arises in your partner's life that makes you question the longevity of a relationship. Let's say your partner gets a job offer and they are now moving, and with this Venus squaring Saturn, you have to look at the relationship very carefully and think whether it's even worth continuing, right? Like whether it feels like it's worth continuing. There might be harsh realizations around topics of freedom and how much freedom you actually have. Maybe needing to rethink things and start working towards getting more freedom. For example, another example that can show up, especially with Venus, especially between 5th and 7th, is you feel like you can date whoever you want, and you feel like you want freedom, and you feel like you want to do whatever you want, but then Saturn checks you, right? Like it's kind of like, I don't know, if you want to explore and enjoy your body, but you don't use protection, and then something backfires, right? And then you have to like be careful and be mindful. So it's interesting because like there's a lot of tension internally with the desire to innovate, desire to break away from the old, but we've been dealing with the Saturn-Uranus square for the last 2 years, right? It's likely nothing new. It's likely same old kind of things, but they get exacerbated by the eclipse, and they get, I think, like lifted up and made even more tense. And it's like another pressure point. There might be, especially with like, I guess both Venus and also the sun in an aspect to Uranus, there might be like creative breakthroughs. There might be changes to the way you see yourself, changes to the way you see your ideals, right? There's a lot of, with Mars being retrograde, there's a lot of questioning of what you want and what you want to pursue as well. So this sun opposition Uranus, Venus opposition Uranus could be like a moment of an exciting idea, inspiration, new beginnings. And then once again, Saturn is going to step in and be like, well, what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you ready to say yes to it? Is this authentic to you? Do you have the time, right? Are you willing to sacrifice something in order to bring forth what you want to bring? Because Saturn is the last visible planet. It's the planet of limitations. It's the planet of delays. And it often says, not yet. Take a step back, rethink things. So working on progress in a steady fashion, I think, is the best way to deal with this. And it's interesting because whenever we have a T-square, it looks like a triangle. So a piece is missing, right? And in this case, Leo is the sign that is missing, because we have Scorpio fixed, we have Aquarius fixed, and we have Taurus fixed, but no Leo. So Leo energy is the answer here in a lot of ways, is a way of balancing, managing, and taking care of yourself. And Leo is playful. Leo is creative. Leo likes to dress up, likes to go out, get compliments, take center stage. So as much as you can, try to like, you know, create dance, play, step away from the drama and the tension, and connect with people you love, connect with a creative hobby and try to avoid getting too kind of bogged down. Is that a word? I hope that's a word. By Saturn. So let's take a look at all 12 signs and see what this might be about for you. For Aries rising, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun in the 8th house oppose Uranus and Taurus in the 2nd house, and then square Saturn in the 11th house. So here you're dealing with a conflict between the values of a relationship, the finances of a relationship or partnership, your personal finances, and your friendships or your hopes and dreams and plans for the future. So it's like a conflict of values, a conflict of belief, a conflict of money, right? And what's worth spending on or what's worth believing. With Uranus in the 2nd, there might be sudden spendings, there might be sudden debts that you have to pay off, sudden personal investments that may somehow jeopardize your relationship or, like affect your relationship. There might be sudden, like it's something is like pinning you against other people, and somehow your values are at odds with them. And like I said, it could be about financial disagreements, right? Like you are literally in a partnership and you want to spend money on a rug and your partner wants to spend money on a couch and you're disagreeing about that. Or it could be about something else, like you believe you follow one party, your partner follows another party, and you kind of get into an argument about it. Political party, right? Some kind of surprises can also arise connected to money. Like you suddenly need to spend on something and that affects the future of your partnership, or your future plans. Like you wanted to go on a trip with your partner and now you have to rethink. So they will square Saturn in the 11th house. So there might be a sense that you need to take a step back and maybe look at the relationship, like especially if it's a friendship, look at it through a more rational lens and see whether a relationship is worth pursuing. Or maybe 11th house also deals with your hopes and dreams, and there might be a need to pivot and a need to compromise, maybe postpone and rethink how you want to approach things. Like let's say you are a creative person, right? And there is a play that you are in. With Uranus in the 2nd house, something might draw your attention away from it. And there might be even some kind of like job opportunity or something connected to money that takes you away and takes your mind away from it. So Saturn will encourage you to continue working on your dreams, but maybe not rush towards things, and just like be careful getting into fights with people about money. For Taurus rising, Venus in the 7th house, Sun and Mercury will oppose Uranus in the 1st and then square Saturn in the 10th. So here there might be a personal opportunity, a personal project, something that lets you express your independence and follow your dreams that is at odds with your relationships. So there might be conflicts about, what is good for you, what is good for us. And maybe a sense if things feel like too restrictive, especially in a business partnership or a romantic relationship, that you almost have like this knee-jerk reaction to break away and follow your dreams. But Saturn, it does square Saturn in the 10th house, which says that you need to focus on the long term, and you're building something, you're working on something, right? It's almost like you are in a business partnership and you get this opportunity to build a house that is just your own. Like say you're an architect and you get a chance to like design a house that's just your own, but you cannot with Saturn in the 10th because you have made a commitment. You cannot jump ship yet. But this tension can be something that shows you what is it that you're not happy with and what is it that needs to be changed. So watch out for getting in fights and making rash decisions you might later regret, because shortly after, these planets square Saturn, you have to think about long term. You're not quite free to do what you want yet. For Gemini rising, we have Venus and the Sun and Mercury in the 6th house opposing Uranus in the 12th, squaring Saturn in the 9th. And here you're dealing with some kind of so planets in Scorpio in your 6th house likely want to bring some kind of structure into your daily life, take care of health matters, take care of your work, eat well. Uranus in the 12th house might bring some kind of self-defeating tendency to the fore. It may force you to look at a past issue. There might be something happening that is out of your control, that disrupt your daily life, that disrupt your routine. And then because Saturn is also involved, I feel like maybe you're looking at your beliefs, right? Like you're looking at things that are at your core and your core values and how they might be disrupting your life, right? Like, do you believe that you have to work extra hard for everything? Do you believe that you have to do 5 days a week? Work 5 days a week? Maybe you're called to rethink some of those things. Maybe you're called to take a closer look. There might also, with Saturn involved, there might be certain sacrifices that you need to make when it comes to education. For example, like you've booked like the most expensive course, and maybe you realize you don't need to take that course, so maybe you need to take a step back and rethink that. There might be certain travel matters that need to be postponed because you're dealing with a sudden, unpredictable thing in your life. So both beliefs, but also some like literal changes. It could also be, honestly, like, you know, like you're working on something with the planets in the 6th house, and then Uranus in the 12th creates like a glitch in your process, and you need to maybe have like an honest conversation. You need to like, it can also, there's so many ways this can play out, but this can also have to do with legal matters and maybe filing some kind of paperwork or like dealing with some kind of authority figure that is standing in your way and is not letting you have like more clarity and more balance between your everyday life and your mental health. For Cancer rising, planets in the 5th house and Scorpio will oppose Uranus in the 11th, and they will square Saturn in the 8th. With planets in Scorpio right now, you might be looking for fun. You might be thinking about romance. You may be thinking of dating. Uranus in the 11th could give you an opportunity to connect with people on a social level, to maybe work with a group of people, together with potential disruptions, together with some kind of conflicts around friends or issues around friends. This could be like you want to go out with a friend, but they call sick, or, you know, like something happens that blocks you from spending time with them or working with them. And then it squares Saturn in the 8th house, which makes you look at how free you really are and what kind of dependencies you have and what kind of commitments you have and contracts, literal, but also karmic contracts. How free are you, right, to do things you want to do? And it's not a quick fix. It's not like an easy question to answer, but you can use this frustrating situation between, you know, something that's blocking your fun, something that's distracting you or taking your attention away from having a balanced life, to maybe start working on freeing yourself from the negative things. And if there is, you know, there, like with the 11th house Uranus, there might be an opportunity to join a new group, to follow your dreams, to go somewhere new. And Saturn might be making you first free yourself. So it doesn't say, no, there isn't this opportunity, but it says like, well, look here first. Look at, maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you don't have the resources. Maybe you are a parent and you need to take care of your child. So it's kind of like, keep working at it, but don't rush. For Leo rising, we have Venus and the planets in Scorpio in the 4th house opposing Uranus in the 10th house, squaring Saturn in the 7th. So here it's very much about your home, your living situation, your work life, and your relationships. And something might happen with Uranus in the 10th house where your professional life gets set on fire. Something happens professionally. You may get a new opportunity. You may quit your job because you're tired and frustrated, or you feel ready for something new. I wouldn't recommend any rash decisions. But something's happening at work that then in turn affects your home and your peace, your living situation. And then you have to pin that against your relationship, right? So maybe there is an opportunity at work to move somewhere, to take a job that makes you move, but you have a relationship here, your partner is here and they cannot move. So you need to deal kind of with things. You need to think about whether that means letting go of a relationship, whether that means dealing with long distance, or whether that means saying no to the opportunity, right? There might be a lot of kind of like, you're not quite free to do what you want. There might also be tensions between you and your business partner about the way you want to proceed with things, for example. And a need to be patient, right? Like a need to not rush because Mars is also retrograde and you don't know where things will take you. Let me know if this resonates. It's a little bit more complicated with like 3 signs being activated at the same time. And of course, the possibilities are endless. So I hope it resonates. Let me know. For Virgo rising, we have planets in Scorpio in the 3rd house, opposing Uranus in the 9th, squaring Saturn in the 6th. So Uranus in the 9th might create surprises related to education, travel, publishing, legal, and faith. There might be a change in your belief. There might be a desire for expansion and going away, trying new things, pursuing new dreams. While Saturn in the 6th house will say, hey, you have a workload. Hey, you have this job. Hey, you're like in the middle of getting physical therapy or something, because Saturn will point you towards your health, your immediate environment, your workload, and things that you need to take care of in order to create more freedom, right? So maybe you need to have some honest conversations. Maybe you need to shuffle things around because Saturn is moving away from your 6th house soon. There is a chance that things that you're boggled down with or things that you're overwhelmed with will start lightening up. And the planets in the 3rd house might also be pointing to your desire to start a business, to take on your skills to the next level, to learn something new. And maybe with Uranus in the 9th house, there's just certain like steps you have to take before you get there, right? Like you've submitted documentation, but it gets rejected, and now you need to reapply. Or you realize that you need to study new things, or you need to get more education. So Saturn will be like, there's work to be done. And if you do the work, Saturn will reward you. For Libra rising, Venus and Mercury and the Sun in the 2nd house oppose Uranus in the 8th and square Saturn in the 5th. So here something happens in your 8th house with Uranus there, where either your partnership gets compromised, something about the project you've been working on with other people. I'm getting shadows. Funny shadows. Never mind. But so yeah, like Uranus in the 8th will bring disruptions to the resources of other people. There might be disruptions to your partner's finances, where your partner wins some money, or they lose a job, they lose a sort of source of income. Maybe you run into some kind of conflict with them about money or values. And that in turn with Saturn in the 5th house will make you likely become kind of like, it's gonna make you more serious. It's gonna make you question your desire for long-term in a relationship. Like, say there is some kind of serious disagreement with the partner and different values, and you realize, you kind of like start to think whether long-term this is something feasible. Or if it's a business partnership, you may be questioning whether this person is someone you want to proceed with, because perhaps your values are different. There might be a very literal thing like, you know, your partner loses their job. Hopefully your partner doesn't lose their job, but like something happens where their income source gets disrupted, and with Saturn in the 5th house, you now have to postpone joy. You now have to postpone your fun and kind of make very serious decisions and some kind of sacrifices, or do careful balancing when it comes to fun. This can also have to do with children, have to do with debts that you have to pay. And it's not necessarily about a partner if you're single, but needing to do careful balancing when it comes to your finances in order to be able to have more freedom financially. For Scorpio rising, we have Scorpio planets in the 1st house, opposite Uranus in the 7th house, square Saturn in the 4th. And here it's about you, your partnerships, and your home and family. And somehow these things potentially are creating stress and tension in your life. So Uranus in the 7th house might create sudden developments in your relationship. Maybe you find out you're pregnant. Maybe your partner gets some kind of unique opportunity. Maybe your partner wants more freedom, right? There might be some kind of disagreement, as well as more exciting things, right? Like partner gets some kind of opportunity. But disruptions might be coming from the house of relationships. And then there's a square to the house of home and family and comfort and security. So you're questioning what makes you feel comfortable. You might be questioning the long term with this person, and whether they are supportive enough, or whether there is a possibility of long term. There might be a need to reflect on your relationship with your family, both like a literal relationship, but also how, for example, your parents interacted with one another, and how their interactions are affecting your relationship right now. Because maybe you need to make some kind of changes, right? Like maybe your disruptions that are happening in your relationship are connected to that past karma and those like things that were not addressed in your home, for example. And let me know if this is resonating. Or it could be your partner gets a new job, they want to move, but you cannot move because there is like home renovation, or like I said, something very internal, right? Some kind of healing that you need to do, and freedom you need to face. And maybe you're moving towards freeing yourself from past negative patterns, but it's a long process. For Sagittarius rising, we have Venus in the 12th house, Mercury and the Sun opposite Uranus in the 6th, squaring Saturn in the 3rd. So I feel like here it's like about things you're saying or things you're not saying, especially since Saturn in the 3rd house is involved. With planets in your 12th house, Scorpio planets in your 12th house, you're doing some healing, you're doing some growth, you're reflecting on your self-defeating tendencies, or you're just like going away, right? There might also be very much like a desire to go away and spend some time in solitude and reconnect with yourself. Uranus in the 6th house can like throw a wrench in your plans. It could mean that now there is like a health issue you need to address, or now there is like a work matter that you need to deal with. And maybe pointing to the overall underlying need to free yourself from those things, right? Like if you are going away, if you are focusing on growth, maybe something in your immediate environment is not serving you. And that's what Uranus might be about. Of course, this could also deal with relationships with colleagues, right? Especially between November 5th and 7th when Venus opposes Uranus. But as well as, I think with Saturn in the 3rd house, in the mix. It is about communicating more honestly. Like if there is work drama that you don't want to deal with and you've had a trip scheduled, so maybe it's about you standing up for yourself and asserting yourself and expressing things honestly, right? Like building a different schedule, taking responsibility for things you say yes or things you say no to. For Capricorn rising, we have planets in the 11th, Scorpio planets in the 11th oppose Uranus in the 5th and square Saturn in the 2nd. Scorpio season has brought a lot of focus to your hopes and dreams, your plans for the future, your friendships, your like networks, and now Uranus in the 5th house can bring both positive and negative surprises related to romance, creativity, and children, right? There might be like a creative breakthrough, a creative opportunity. There might be sudden development connected to pregnancy. There might be issues with friendships and conflicts perhaps between you and your friends, or maybe your friends don't like your partner, your boo. So some kind of tension between like your friends and your relationship or your plans for the future. Because that's what 11th house represents. It represents your plans for the future and the opportunities at hand, or personal joy and personal bliss. So yeah, so there might be certain like shakeups, certain questions between like long-term and immediate pleasure. And then Saturn in the 2nd house will make you look at your values, will make you look at your finances and consider things carefully. For example, with the 5th house, maybe there is a chance to take on a new project. Maybe there's a chance for some kind of fun experience, but with Saturn in the 2nd house, you need to consider finances, right? Can you afford that? Are your values aligned with that? Is it the right time? So there might be a little bit of a sense of like needing to take a step back, needing to look at things carefully, and maybe consider finances as well. For Aqua rising, Venus in the 10th house, Mercury and the Sun will oppose Uranus in the 4th and will square Saturn in the 1st house. So here it's like your career, your status, your goals versus your home and family versus Saturn in the 1st, versus your own rigidity at times or your own fears perhaps. So with Scorpio activating your 10th house, you're looking at your professional goals. There might be new realizations, new things you want to pursue. Uranus in the 4th can create surprises related to family, your home situation, past karma realizations, some kind of insights about the past, as well as disruptions related to home. Like you have a professional matter you want to pursue, but your kid gets sick or your pipe bursts and something takes your attention away from that. It does square Saturn. So Saturn to me feels like you still need to persevere. You need to continue working on yourself. And you need to examine your own tendency to maybe sometimes be too rigid or put the needs of the other people first, be too focused on the family. And how can you move forward, right? Like how can you take responsibility for yourself and let the past process it, but let the past be the past. Don't let it hold you back. Don't let your family hold you back. Try to find a healthy balance between your future and your past and your present. Finally, for Pisces rising, we have Scorpio planets in the 9th opposing Uranus in the 3rd house, squaring Saturn in the 12th house. This Uranus in the 3rd house can bring there could be frustrating conversations with siblings or neighbors, some kind of communication difficulty, right? Harsh exchanges. Maybe you say something, maybe you get said something too. Something where you feel like, I don't know, it could even be like a sense of like tossing papers up in the air and walking away from a job, from a relationship, from a situation. possibly you're looking at your own schedule, right? Like maybe you've felt like you've been taking on too much, like there hasn't been an independence, maybe you've been feeling frustrated, and you're ready to make a break for it. Could be a romantic relationship, right? Or could be something very different. And with the square with Saturn, you will likely, if you do have this like knee-jerk reaction, if you do say something, if you do react in a negative way, it squares Saturn, and Saturn will bring up topics that are a lot bigger, topics that deal with your inner frustration, with self-sabotaging tendencies, with tendency to like play a role of a victim sometimes, or get lost in some kind of bad thinking patterns, and a need to examine those and let those go, right? And how they affect your life. For example, planets are in the 9th house, you want to go on a trip, you want to learn something new, you want to expand your life, and suddenly Uranus in the 3rd tosses a lot of work your way, or there's some kind of, thing that you need to take care of, something that messes your schedule, and you react badly. And yes, there is this immediate situation of you reacting badly, but behind it, there is also, do you work too much? Do you tend to be too bendable when things arise? Like, do you sacrifice your needs for those of others? Maybe you need to rethink that and think of how your behavior affects yourself and affects people in your life. And I think that's it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if it resonated in the comments below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.